Happy mid-January, Mr. Thompson.
Happy mid-January. I'm over the hump,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm not under the hump.
It's a great place to be. When is it appropriate to stop saying Happy New Year?
I don't say it. Whenever I get on a call, I say you're welcome.
Oh, right. So like instead of like hi Jack, you're welcome.
No, no, no. So join a call with me.
Ding, hello.
And what would you say now?
Hello, you all right? Happy New Year.
You're welcome.
Oh, as if you brought the new year.
Yeah, yeah. As if I'd brought the new year. Exactly. Anyway, what are we here to talk about today, Jack?
I want to talk about the mind.
Ooh.
But I don't want it to be a wanky episode. I think that one thing
Okay.
people will say about us is we're not wankers. Oh no, no, no,
I don't know if they
to the
would.
contrary. Never mind. I spent a lot of time reflecting in 2024. I put some things in place, and I want to give maybe some tangible stuff in this episode, so we can talk about like how to make sure you do the things you want to do this year, some habit stuff, maybe some gratitude stuff, and maybe just talking a little bit about like cold calling anxiety, because let's face it, it's scary at
Mm,
times and your mind tells you that you don't want to do it. So maybe we could talk about a few of those things. They're the things I'm thinking about at the moment. I'm sure you've got a
beautiful.
couple of ideas that you've been thinking about.
I've got some ideas, Jack, but I'm going to hit you with one that's probably really actionable for people at the minute. So I reckon a lot of people, they might have been lucky enough to have 2 weeks off over Christmas, let's say, but even sometimes 2 days off at Christmas, mine's totally turned off, and you've come back in, and suddenly you're not in the habit of speaking to strangers. The fear's returned.
Mm.
How would you advise people get over cold call anxiety, or even the anxiety of getting on a discovery call with a stranger in a month that's really hard to hit target?
So I think there's probably like an age old saying of like you've got to get back on the horse and you've just got to kind of start getting into it. But I'm a big fan of like mantras, and mantras can be many different things, but like mantras could be like a quote or something, but just like ideas that you can remember. So a few of those mantras could be like you when you entered the world of sales, sales automatically comes with rejection. So 99% of your job is going to be rejection. The rejection's already like, are there any guarantees? Yeah, rejection. You will get no's, you will get hang-ups, you will get people being rude. Those people being rude, typically, you've got to have empathy, because if somebody's being rude to you, why are they being rude? They're probably
Mm-hmm.
not very happy in their life. They probably didn't have the Christmas that you had. So have that empathy. So remembering those kind of different things, and you know me, Zach Thompson. I'm a big fan of death. It's 2025. I've got to talk about it. But like no one's ever died from a cold call, and fast forward 30, 40, 50 years, when you look back on this job, this time of your life, it you won't remember the days, you won't remember the conversations, you won't remember the hardships. You'll just remember the feeling, and let the feeling that you leave with be, oh yeah, I tried there. Oh, that was good. Or I had fun there. Like life, typically in sales, we're not saving lives, are we? You might be working with some big pharmaceutical company, but it's not that deep. Okay. So if you can enjoy yourself in the day, I think there's some of the mantras and some of the actionable bits that I'll take away. What would you do? What's front of mind for you at the minute?
Well, just in terms of not doubling down on what you've just said and giving like a different perspective, I sometimes think what people do is they come in the wrong gear.
Mm,
And the wrong gear is not probably what I think of people coming in a little sluggish. I see a lot of people who are like, this is my year. I'm really excited to like put all these new things into place, make all this happen. And they pick the wrong gear. They pick a gear that's totally unsustainable. So what ends up happening is, and it's the classic thing, isn't it? It's like I've joined the gym, and then actually I've joined it at such a pace, put so many different changes in, that I'm starving on the weekend, and actually now I'm craving a beer. Before you know it, it's all fallen away. So
mm,
actually pick a gear that's a consistent gear, and pick one that there's evidence that you can do. And normally what I'd say is it's probably about incremental changes, not major ones. So if you were to work backwards from where do you want to be this year compared to next, and what are maybe one or two things that might get you closer to there, then you can stack habits rather than change them all at once. So it might
yeah.
be I want to make more I want to have more conversations. So right, I'm gonna up the output a bit, and I'm gonna up the output and stick at that for a period of time till I see right there's more conversations happening. Make that into a habit, and then move into the next phase. Don't try and
Mm.
do everything at once. Otherwise, you won't know where the variables are and where the changes have been. A scientist doesn't go, I'm going to solve all the problems at once. They go, let's just tweak this one just a little bit and just see what happens.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. Well, we've had a lot of conversations in private about this over the holidays, and I think for us, there's no like big New Year's resolution. What we've probably done is we've just got the dial, and we've just maybe gone up a couple of switches
Mm.
because I found I've been reading this new book, and I shared it with you, and I am obsessed with it at the moment. This quote, but it is do the obvious thing for an extraordinary amount of time, and don't convince yourself that you're smarter than you are.
It's
And I
beautiful.
just think it's so good because it's a case of, well, what is the obvious thing? So people say, well, we did our one-to-ones at the start of the year, and we're like, what do you want to achieve? What do you want to gain? Where do you want to be by the end of the year? A lot of it came down to booking meetings with the right people that sit. And that is like
Yeah.
the granular, what can I do on a daily basis? So I'll give you something that I've been doing, and I've kind of been telling some of our team to do. I think if we rely on motivation, the brain, free will. The brain is very powerful and very clever at convincing you not to do things and forgetting things. So one thing I started this year is a gratitude list. Okay. Now I practice gratitude anyway. And at the end of every day, me and my partner, we lie in bed and we'll say something like, "Oh, this was the highlight of the day," and it becomes a habit anyway. But what I wanted to do this year is I wanted to build a list so that when we get to the 31st of December 2025, I've got 365 things, moments, maybe things that made me laugh, things that have been good. Like one of them was rewatching Geordie Shore with my 11-month-old baby. Like just little things that you'll
What?
don't worry about it. Just little things that you'll look back on and go, "Oh, that was it." So then all of a sudden, the days don't just become days. You can actually pinpoint a moment from all of those days. Now, would I remember to do that every single day? No, because the habit's not there. So I've made my life easier. I've put a reminder on. So every day at 8:30, that comes up, and then I'll see it, or I'll see it in the morning, and then I'll go on to it, and then I'll complete it. So what I say to salespeople is, whatever it is that you need to do, whether it's a reset, maybe it's a reminder to be present, maybe it's a focus to think about your tone, maybe it's a reminder to listen to a call. Use your calendar, block out those times, be really, really powerful, and have conviction in what you're going to do. Don't just rely on things to happen. You've got to have systems and processes that are going to make your life easier. So this happens, which means I do this. Do you know what I mean? In the
Mm.
same way that you set an alarm to get up in the morning, or set an alarm to be grateful, set an alarm to start cold calling, set an alarm in the afternoon to say, the morning wasn't what I wanted it to be. I'm going to take 5 minutes outside. I'm going to refresh. I'm going to be present now.
Nice. I like that a lot. I like that a lot. It sparked a thought around learning for me, like what you've just said. So actually, I think if people, this has been a little secret to how we've done some of the We Have a Meeting stuff. If you look at things outside of sales that you've learned and that's stuck and you've absorbed, and that might be skills, might be an instrument, martial arts, might be paint, whatever it may be, like a thing that you've got that you taught yourself or learn, how did you learn it? And asking yourself that question, then applying the same principles to selling. So it might be you're the sort of person who needed to have a guitar lesson, but then sit in front of YouTube with your guitar in your hand and get a
Mm.
few of the concepts and practice them just on your own and get your head around them. Someone else might be, oh, I learned better from books. Someone else might be more of a practical learner. So they might be someone who actually do the low stakes ladder, which would be, I'm going to practice a sales skill on someone who probably knows what I'm doing. So I might practice it with you, Jack. And then I'm going to practice it on a partner or a family member or something that doesn't know what I'm doing, but if they spotted it, it wouldn't be the end of the world. Then I might practice it on a stranger, but it might be a stranger in the supermarket or a coffee shop or something. And then once I've done that bit, right now I know it's ready to bring in to cold call. And with that, I think about skills like mirroring, labeling, asking certain questions, or even there are ways that you can get information without asking any questions. And how do you practice those in low stakes environments? So I'd encourage everyone who's looking to get better and learn more this year to actually look outside of sales. What do you think your preferred learning style has been? And just lean into that. Don't try and make round peg fit square hole.
Mm. I like the way you said that. Yeah, learning to think is something that we don't think about, but like critical thinking is a skill set, and you actually have
Yeah.
to. Okay, if I'm trying to solve this problem, the amount of times it's like people will come with a problem. Well, first of all, have you Googled it? Have you used ChatGPT? Have you got a kind of like before you try and solve a problem? Shane Parrish talks about this in his book Clear Thinking. But before you try and solve a problem, have you defined what the problem is? Do you know what you're trying to solve? Because a lot of the time, you're like you say there with the square peg round hole, you're trying to push a solution on, but actually, is that the problem that you want to solve, or are you just getting rid of the flames, but the smoke's still there?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. There's a an old scholar who's coming back into circulation at the minute, the old Socrates. You see a
Mm,
lot of people talking about Socratic questions. I think you're really good at this, Jack. Taking an idea that you've got and basically asking yourself all the questions around it from the other perspective. So it's like a really well-rounded viewpoint. So it might be, you see a lot of people on LinkedIn like only this style of cold calling works, or only this thing works, and then they end up like trying to batter people who don't do it in that way. You know what I mean? Like that wouldn't work. Like only my pattern works, or only my certain way works. And what you really want to do is be your own inner critic, and not in a way of like being hard on yourself, but just challenging that you come with ego, you make assumptions, and the only thing, this is Socrates again, the only thing you should really know is that you know nothing. Always have that learner's white belt mindset. So
mm,
if you are someone who's like going only this style of cold calling works, or let's even think of it as like there's really long sales cycles in my industry, like so it's going to be really hard to hit target this year. Okay, well, what do you mean by that? Explore it. Give me the opposite opinion of that. What could be different this year if someone out there tried harder than you, had all the tools at their disposal? What would that actually look like? You know, and try and give yourself these challenging questions that give you the full, well-rounded perspective, so that you're not someone who's making assumptions and paralyzing yourself and stopping you from doing the job that you're perfectly capable of doing.
mm. And I would go one further, and this is probably where we're heading in the world anyway with AI and things like that. But that becomes a skill set in itself of like changing perspective and asking yourself the questions. If you can't do it to yourself, maybe grab somebody to question you and say like, I need you to play this role. Or if you don't feel comfortable doing that, you can get AI to play that role. I need you to be a Socratic questioning master. This is my belief. I need you to challenge me on this,
Mm-hmm.
and then have a back and forth. You shared with me a story a little while ago, or an example about the friend and the gun when it comes to like Socratic questioning. Will you share that with the audience?
Oh yeah, yeah. So Socrates used to basically be brought in by politicians and people who were very big on their values and virtues, and what they would come to him with is say, "This is who I am. These are my driving principles that prop me up as Zach or Jack." And what Socrates would do is try and find ways to unpick that and get you to see it from a different angle. So someone would say, "I'm not a liar. There's no scenario I'd ever be a liar. I feel so strongly about not being a liar that I'm always truthful." And rather than jumping straight into challenging it, he always would ask questions. He'd go, "Okay, what do you mean by that? Why is it important to you? What do you think the bedrock of that would be?" And then he'd say, "Okay, well, let me ask you a question. If your best friend was suicidal and they came to you and they said, 'Where's that really sharp knife?' What would you do then?" And then they'd have to say, well, yeah, I suppose I'd have to lie to them. But you said you weren't a liar, and he'd catch them out in that
Mm,
way. But it was more so around, can I get you to see things from a different perspective? And that's really what we should all be doing. Any idea that you hold really strongly that gets you angry, that's like, this is my hill to die on, an alarm bell should be going off that is your inner child that's holding on to that. That's your ego that's holding on to that. Anytime you go into a conversation, a debate, you're challenging yourself, you should go in saying, I can happily, if someone has a better opinion on this than me, or a valid point that I don't have, or challenges me in a way that I can think differently on this, that you should be open to that and open to looking at new perspectives. Otherwise, there is no growth.
I love that. I've got two things I want to share because I'm really enjoying this, and I don't know, maybe 2025 could be the year of us.
We get on.
We could be friends this year. I haven't told you this yet, but you talk about low stakes environment, right? We were in me and my partner Zoe. We're in the Trafford Centre over the new
Other
year.
centres are available.
Yeah, other centres are available, and I had my first Blank Street. You heard of Blank Street?
Is it like a sexual thing?
No, it's not a sexual thing. It's a coffee shop. It's a coffee shop that all the influencers are going to. You get like green matcha teas and nice pistachio banana cake brews or whatever it is. Well, you know me. Let's see how well you know me. What's my coffee order?
Black Americano.
Black. But I went for an iced black Americano.
Harder than hard. Nice.
It was a cold brew. It was the hardest coffee. I was skipping around the Trafford Centre screaming in people's faces by the end of it. You know what it's like. And I wanted Zoe to try it because it was so strong. But I know that Zoe doesn't like black coffee. And I was thinking about low stakes way. And I was like, right, I'm sat there and I'm thinking, she's waiting for her drink. And I'm thinking, how can I get her to try this? Because I know if I said to her, try this, it's really good, she wouldn't go for it. So you know what I said to her?
What did you say?
I said, oh, it's a shame that you can't try this, isn't it? And she went, give it here.
And tried it.
And she tried it. And she went, oh, it's disgusting. And I was like, yeah, but I know. And then I told her what I'd done afterwards. And she was just like, oh, wow, yeah, if you'd asked me to try it. So I always think about like, how can you reframe things? And then you were talking then about like values. And I heard this on a podcast recently. I don't know if you've heard it, but I think it's really, really good. If I asked you what are your values, I'm going to put you on the spot, but what would you say?
Do you know what? I've been thinking about this question a lot, and I don't actually know the answer to this too much. I would say, I mean, the number one I think is actually a really common one that a lot of people say is, contrary to the way I treat you, I like to think that I treat people with respect.
Okay.
That's a common one. Family. And then I don't know.
Okay, so respect and family, so that's good. So what when I was listening to this podcast, and I'll just regurgitate it for kind of your ears and the audience, they said that typically most values will be the same, especially in companies. Companies will have them, but actually, if you don't do anything above the norm, especially company values, all companies say respect. Mm-hmm. But a great exercise to do if you're like someone, respect is my value and family, is to think of 5 to 10 tangible things that you can do that actually like convict what those values are. So what would be like 5, or so like family could be like, I don't know, you do this stuff anyway, but spend individual time with all the boys over the space of a month, like have like daddy play date or whatever. But then if it was respect, what are 5 things that you could do, like a checklist of things that would kind of ingrain those values that are actual tangible? One could obviously, you could be nicer to me this year, but what else could there be? But that's a great exercise to get you. If you say, not you, but the royal you, I'm somebody that respects people, I'm somebody that looks after my family. Well, what are the granular level things that you can do? And if you are hardworking and you're saying that I'm hardworking and this can be my year in sales, what are actually the tangible, actionable things that you can do that show that you're hardworking, rather than just saying my values are hard work?
I would say as a buyer warning for this type of thing, values are for you. Hard working is typically signaling. People love to wear that as a badge of honor. So if you couldn't tell anyone what your values were, what would they be? That's the question to ask, isn't it? Like, and I've worked with, have friends that are like this. They really need to show you, like, look how hard working I am. You know, I've still got friends who are, there's the head in the spreadsheet on a Sunday morning. You're like, there's every business that inquires with us at the minute is, we automate manual processes. Like, you don't have to be doing that.
No.
So why are you doing that?
The busy fool. The busy fool. And speaking of busy fools, Zach Thompson, it's been great to have you on the podcast this year. It's been good to be back. That felt like a Don't know about you, but that felt like a bit of a grown-up episode. There was less silliness, lots of actionable takeaways. So I want you to bring the silliness back now and tell us what's our task for this week's Trench Tips.
All right. So I want you to go onto LinkedIn.
It's always LinkedIn, yeah.
Yeah. And I want you to add Louis Patterson.
Great guy.
Put Louis Patterson from We Have a Meeting in a group chat with someone completely random in your connections and just say, thought I'd introduce you to, and then leave the chat. If you can screenshot it before you do and send it to me or Jack, what do we think? Start of the year, feeling good. £1,000. £1,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
£1,000, you do it. And we'll do it for 2 people this time, not just 1.
Wow.
Right,
Someone closed the deal yesterday. Okay, nice.
Well, so get that over. Most people who are messaging me are not the first people to do it. So make sure you do it quick.
Yeah,
there was one guy, the last guy who got it, said that he skipped to the end of the episode, then went back and watched the rest of the episode. So there's a move in doing that.
Think smart, not hard. I like it.
All right.
Respect you.